Good morning. Good morning, Baltimore and beyond. I'm Delegate Stephanie Smith, Chair of the Baltimore City House Delegation to the Maryland General Assembly, and I somehow found a gavel to bring the meeting to order. So great to have everyone joining us this morning. We will just want to advise that if you are not speaking, please be on mute so that we can have quality sound for everyone hearing the live stream. For today's agenda, we will have a briefing by one of our U.S. Senators, Chris Van Hollen. But prior to that, Jeremy, can we wait to do the business part after his presentation before the hearings, like the minutes, or should we do it now?
We can wait, Madam Chair.
Okay, perfect. So we'll begin the official business after the conclusion of the briefing. So I know that you had a few questions in advance, but I think they're all the things that people out in wider Maryland would want to know answers to. We want an update on vaccines, an update on on the impeachment. There's a lot of things that I think you're primed and ready to share with us. So without further delay, you have the floor, sir.
Well, thank you, Chair Smith. It is great to be with the Baltimore City delegation in Annapolis. Let me just start by thanking all of you for the work that you've been doing, especially the work during this global pandemic to help all of your constituents, our constituents during this very difficult time. For those of you who are just joining us, I was saying that if I seem a little tired this morning, it's because we just wrapped up in the United States Senate at about 5:30 a.m. I got about an hour's sleep, and the reason for that is we were working to pass the budget resolution in the United States Senate, which is the process that we have to use if we're going to pass something in the Senate with 51 votes, a majority, to avoid a Republican filibuster. We're pursuing this two-track process. We would like to have Republican partners join us in the next round of the emergency relief, President Biden's America Rescue Plan. But so far, we don't seem to have many Republican senators interested in going big, which is what I think all of us believe and understand we need to do to fully defeat this pandemic and get our economy in high gear in the coming months. And so that's why we had this process last night. The House will do the same. And Vice President Kamala Harris cast the deciding vote. It was 50-50, 50 Democrats voting for the budget resolution, 50 Republican senators voting against. And so I was very pleased to see our vice president in the chair in the Senate so that we can move forward on this process. Let me just back up a moment because I do think it's important to have a full sense of what's available to the state and to the city as part of the bill we passed in December. Because one of the things I've talked to some of you about is the real need to track these federal dollars as they go through the state system to make sure they get where they're needed most. And when that comes to vaccine dollars, that means making sure Baltimore City gets what it needs, and also the hardest hit communities, which we know are communities of color, African American community. So we need to make sure those dollars flow. One of the major provisions in that December bill brought $400 million to the state of Maryland. And, the state, the governor recently made their application. Our delegation, the Maryland congressional delegation, Senator Cardin, myself, and my colleagues, Congressman Mfume and Sarbanes and Ruppersberger and others, we wrote to the governor just the other day, talking about the fact that the state of Maryland, according to the national statistics, the CDC statistics, was for a while ranked dead last in terms of the distribution of the vaccine that had come to our state. Then we are about 41 out of 50, and we're still at the back of the pack. And so we had a lot of questions that we still haven't gotten answers to from the governor, from the state, about the lack of coordination in their vaccine system, because there's no reason Maryland should be at the very back of the pack nationally here. And we want to work with you to try to get to the bottom of what's happening. And we asked in that letter how those $400 million are being spent. Now, that December bill also included continued important relief on the economic front. I won't go into all the details, but as you know, it extended the expanded unemployment system plus the $300 additional per week through mid-March. And one of the reasons we need to do another round is because we know that we're not going to beat this pandemic by the middle of March. It also included the individual payments of $600 in that case to eligible families. It included we've been constantly improving the PPP program, Paycheck Protection Program, to target it more and more on communities most in need, small businesses, minority-owned businesses. And one of the really important features of the December bill included substantial resources to CDFIs and minority depository institutions like Harbor Bank to really channel loans and, in the end, forgiven loans to businesses that need it most. It also importantly included a new capital component, an infusion of capital into minority depository institutions and CDFIs. So for those of you who are more interested in pursuing that, let us know. It should be a big boost to local lending and grants. The other major pieces of this, while there was no direct funding to the state and local governments in the December bill, it did include funds to, of course, lots of big institutions in the state. So Baltimore City Schools, for example, received $197 million in important supplement during these difficult times. And then both the community colleges as well as four-year institutions in the city received substantial help. So Coppin received 1.3 million, University of Baltimore 1.1, University of Maryland and Baltimore over $1 million, Morgan State 4.6 million, Baltimore City Community College 1.4, Goucher. So all the institutions, I'm not going to name all the others, received it. And finally, there was one piece of the assistance in December that did go directly to the city, and that was another new feature, not in the original CARES Act, for rental assistance. Because I know all of us are very worried about a tsunami of evictions when the eviction moratorium expires and people all of a sudden have these huge balloon payments due. So that's money that's come to Baltimore City. And I just want to bring it to your attention because the city has lots of flexibility in how it uses that money. Now, just a word about what we were doing last night and going forward. The next bill will include over $350 billion for state and local governments. And one of the things we're determined to do is make sure that the formula provides that a lot of the funds come directly to the city and to counties. So in Maryland, instead of all that money flowing through the state, a lot more of it would flow through this other formula. I urge all of you to have you look at and your teams look at the formula that was in the House HEROES Act. That was the bill that, as you know, the House passed twice last time around, but it never got through the Senate. But in this final version of the HEROES Act, they have a formula that we all worked on to better channel the funds to Baltimore City and other local jurisdictions. The transit money was in the December bill. More is necessary, and that has helped support the city's, the transit systems. And there's another round of individual payments there. And finally, and I'll close with this, it hasn't gotten a whole lot of attention. There's a provision in here for a refundable child tax credit of significant size. And the ultimate effect is that it would cut child poverty in half in the United States. It is a very important provision. In this bill, it would take us, through the end of the year. Our goal is to extend that on a permanent basis. I get it in this bill. It also increases the earned income tax credit, the refundable income tax credit for single workers. So this big bill is really important to make sure that we beat the pandemic, but also that we give enough lift to our economy that we don't live with super high levels of unemployment for years and years to come. And that was a big part of the discussion because going small, it may help in the cup for a couple months, but it won't give our overall economy the boost it needs to get on our road to recovery as we get out of the pandemic. So let me stop there. There are lots of other important parts, but I look forward to trying to answer any questions you've got.
Thank you so much, Senator. I believe Delegate McIntosh has some questions. Thank you so much.
Well, first I have a great big thank you, okay? A great big thank you from all of us. In particular, the fact that you are going to include direct aid to states and municipalities will help us avoid any layoffs, damage to our own, what is right now fairly weakened infrastructure and human capital in our state, among our state workers. They're tired. They've been on the front line, and many of our agencies are under great stress. So I just want to thank you for that. The child care piece, we couldn't thank you more. This has been a priority of our speaker, Adrian Jones, for some time, and we took a giant step forward a few years ago here in Maryland, passing a bill to increase our commitment to child care. But you're right about the impact on that. I do want to, and Delegate Lehrman's going to laugh at this, I think, but I do want to point out one area that when I look at the charts and all the money coming in, that you're very generous to the schools. I love it. You're sending it directly to the schools and to the city. But I know and I understand. I voted for and wanted to support WMATA robustly during, the state budget now has $167 million of general funds that we commit to WMATA. But MTA, if you look at the ridership, Senator, during the pandemic of our MTA system in not just Baltimore, as a matter of fact, the Baltimore region and every county in the state MTA functions. You will find that in Baltimore City, ridership didn't drop like it did around the rest of the state because our citizens in Baltimore do not have cars as an alternative to get to work. And they were the folks who drove down to University of Maryland, Hopkins, Union Memorial, St. Joe's to make sure during the midst of that shutdown that we were being taken care of and that our loved ones were being taken care of. They were the people, the infrastructure to the hospitals that made them run. So I just want to emphasize, as you look at that, some parity for that system because it is a statewide system. It is not just a Baltimore system, but it is in dire need of help, not only now, but long term.
Well, first, thank you, Delegate McIntosh, for all your leadership and your leadership as chair of appropriations. And we are working hard to fashion this so that it helps the MTA. And I recognize that, the Baltimore City transit systems were continuing to not just operate, but also operate carrying, people going to work, helping, keep the city and the state moving at risk to themselves. And so they will receive a substantial amount of funding under both the December bill and any additional funds we pass. So let's make sure that when they come to the state, that the city system receives its share of those funds, because monies went to MTA, they went to the airport, they went to lots of other, they went to the Department of Transportation for Maryland. And that's what I was meant at the beginning by, we also need your help in tracing these funds. I mentioned specifically the 400 million, but all of these funds that went through the state, including another round of funding for the governor's, education fund. I know you've been very involved in that, and we have our Madam Chair working on the thing you drew to our attention with respect to the Baltimore City school debt on the construction.
Right. Thank you.
So
thank you. That I will tell you, I didn't want to mention that unless you did, but Senator, if you could pull that off over the next few years, it would mean $100 million more going into our classrooms that otherwise would not be. And I am absolutely positive that this is a result of decades of the inequities that our school system has been facing with respect to funding. But I can't say anything more than thank you. Just thank you, because what you're doing right now in Congress is a lifesaver, really, for so many Maryland families. And we really thank you. We're glad you're there.
Well, thank you for that. I'm glad you're all doing what you're doing. And I do want to mention that Shannon Sneed is part of our team now. We were so fortunate to get her to head up our Baltimore operation after her terrific service on the Baltimore City Council. And, I was just talking to her the other day, trying to get some more information about things in the city. So she is our eyes and ears and a great ambassador. So we'll look forward to following up with you on all these issues.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Well said, Chair McIntosh. Everything you said was right on point. And again, great thanks to the senator. Next up, we have a question from Delegate Learman.
Sure. And thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thanks for being here, Senator. We can keep this brief. You know that the largest unfunded mandate in federal history is, of course, for special education for our students, and you talked about it a little bit. And you've been a great champion on making sure that we are starting to fulfill, the federal government starting to fulfill more of its commitment. But that is a huge issue for city schools because of the legacy of lead poisoning. And we just have a much larger percentage of kids with special needs. And so I wondered if you could just comment in the legislation that was passed last night. You sort of started to comment on how much funding there was towards special ed and IEP and in the Title I program. Do you have any other details or any other thoughts, or do you think that will make it through the House or stay in the final package as well?
So, Delegate Learman, thank you for your focus on this essential issue and our work together on it. So, I'm going to say a word now about a bill that I've been trying to pass for a long time in the House and the Senate. It's called the Keep Our Pact Act. It's Keep Our Promises to America's Children and Teachers. And it really grew out of my experience working with many of you when I was in the Maryland General Assembly on the Thornton Commission legislation, which, as you know, was an essential piece of legislation at the time that did substantially increase funds for Baltimore City schools and other schools around the state, based on the lawsuit that was filed that showed that our state funding formulas were inequitable and inadequate. And that is also why I'm a big supporter of the Kirwan Commission legislation, and look forward to anything I can to support your override of the veto, the governor's veto, because that is so important. But the federal legislation I introduced is kind of the federal version of that. The idea is we should prioritize funding for our kids, and it would fully fund the federal commitment to special ed and fully fund the federal commitment to Title I. In special ed, when the federal government passed that law back in the 1970s, it said it was going to cover 40% of the cost of special ed. And today we're at about 14%. That's a huge shortfall, and it's a big shortfall for the city. We're also falling way short in Title I, which is the federal support for schools in lower income neighborhoods. Our whole basis for funding public education is based on an inequitable system of property taxes. And so we have to compensate for that at the state and federal level. We've fallen short. So on both these, the good news is that the Biden administration also wants to substantially increase funding in these areas. Now, there is funds for schools in this next round of emergency relief, but this round will not change formulas on a going forward basis. I really hope with your help and people around the country weighing in that we can do that in the next round of Build Back Better, which is going to be the infrastructure bill and trying to address other long-term needs and inequities. So I hope that piece we will get once we complete this business. But just to
Thanks.
give you a sense of where we are in the process really quickly, because the bill that we passed last night is just a budget resolution. It just has, identifies sort of big chunks of spending in certain areas. The next step is when the House passes that our committees get to work, putting the meat on the bones here, and then ultimately passing that bill, we hope by mid-March, which is when the current sort of, for example, UI extension runs out. So that's our goal, both in terms of the emergency bill, and then hopefully we can get ahead of steam and pass the other legislation on special ed and Title I.
Great. Thank you much. Thanks for all your work in this area.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Rosenberg? Oh, you're on mute, Delegate Rosenberg?
Okay, I'm on. Thank you. Chris, you briefly mentioned the next bill, the Build Back Better. At this point, do you have a sense of what that could do for the state of Maryland in terms of areas and specific allocations?
Well, this bill has not yet been fleshed out. It's part of, but we know what the needs are. I mean, the needs in the country are great, and it's good. The focus will be on modernizing our infrastructure, and we're going to work hard to make sure that the funds target urban areas and cities. It will be not just roads and bridges, but more money for transit. You mentioned MTA. It will be more funding for clean energy deployment. It will be more money, and there will be some in this next round for high-speed internet. It's an issue I know many of you have been focused on. I've been very focused on this before the pandemic, trying to make sure that we end the digital divide, which has, again, been harshly illuminated as a result of this pandemic. We've been pushing Comcast for quite a while to increase their speeds. Thank all of you for being part of that, and the students who push them. But we're working hard. I had just talked with the new head of the FCC about changing the national standard on that. My point is, Delegate Rosenberg, that the next infrastructure bill will take an expansive view of infrastructure. And I hope it will also include some of the, not just the hardware, but the funding for our schools. Although all of this is not yet determined, I'm also very focused on long-term unemployment, which is a huge problem, and we're going to have to tackle it. It's going to be a big issue in Baltimore City. So you know, even after we beat this pandemic and the economy comes back, there are going to be millions of Americans who, if we don't take more action, will be looking for work and not be able to find it. And so part of the proposal I would like to see, and I've talked to the Biden team about it, is some form of job subsidies for people who are looking for work and can't find work, that also includes job training, transportation resources, and it would be a subsidy for private sector jobs, but also nonprofit and public sector jobs for 1 to 2 years. Anyway, I think that if we don't do something substantial on that front, we're going to be, you know, living with people who want to work but can't find it for a very long time.
Thank you so much. You know, Delegate Rosenberg, you had my question, and good Senator, you had my answer. So I don't have anything additional to add, but I just want to give another opportunity. Oh, Delegate Wells, I see that you have a question.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And good morning, Senator Van Hollen. Thank you for your presentation, just for all the hard work you're doing for the state of Maryland and Washington. Just a question that actually came to mind as you were talking, especially about Build Back Better and infrastructure and the concern about long-term unemployment. And so the one thing is, we know the potential for infrastructure, especially the construction element of it, to provide opportunity for jobs long-term, and also kind of an on-ramp. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about where we are with ensuring that Davis-Bacon will apply to those jobs, which will help ensure that there's not only a wage that helps sustain families, but we'll also have standards around apprenticeship. So I know there was some back and forth initially around it, but I'm curious, moving forward, do you see that that will be something that that they will ensure is included as we talk about infrastructure?
Right. Well, Delegate Wells, thank you for that question and for your work on this. Look, I hope so. We're gonna need sort of everybody sort of focusing on the kind of issues we're talking about to get them in the next round, in the Build Back Better round. And I think a lot of my colleagues agree with you that it has to include, yeah, again, not just the sort of capital infrastructure, but the human, you know, infrastructure, including job training programs, apprenticeship programs, you know, and we want to make sure that those funds, for example, a Pell Grant type program that also can be used for apprenticeship. It has to be designed in the right way for workforce training opportunities. So I think that is a critical piece of this as we move forward. And so let's keep in touch. I will say that the Build Back Better piece, there are lots of, everyone recognizes the huge number of needs. And the question is how much of that we're going to be able to address in this next round. I'm a little nervous that you know, when we get through this process in mid-March on this emergency bill, there may be some people that say, well, let's not turn right around and do the next round. I know the president's committed to it, and so we've got to get that done. I mean, this is the moment for us to get it done. 50 votes in the Senate, as you know, is the literal and bare majority. So all of you, you know, you're part of the Baltimore City Delegation Caucus. You're part of the Democratic Caucus in Annapolis. You can imagine how challenging it would be if everything you had to pass, you had to get every single member on board, and that's going to be our challenge, to make sure that we put something together that's meaningful for the country both now and next time, and include all these important elements.
Thank you so much. Are there any additional questions that I just did not see anyone raise a hand formally or note otherwise? I think you gave us a lot of excellent information. I guess just something to think on because you pretty much framed it up the stakes because with a 50-50 margin, that's, there's not a lot of room for error and it's tough. But the one thing I don't think we discussed, but I think is also worth just kind of putting out there, something that would be important, not just obviously to our constituents, but for folks across Maryland, is any conversations around student loan and debt relief, I think is really critical to also, I mean, there are some folks not starting businesses and not buying homes, even pre-pandemic because of the yoke of student loan debt. And I think that's something I just wanted to lift up as also a part of the grander narrative around racial equity, because those who carry the most disproportionate amount of loans are often people who represent communities of color and women disproportionately. So I just wanted to note that for the good of the order. Seeing no other questions, I just want to tell you, thank you for taking time out of your life after 1 hour's sleep to share all of that information. So, I mean, you were quite on the ball for so little rest, and we pray your strength in the days and months to come.
I won't answer this at length, but on your last point, that also is a big part of the legislation we're looking at, both for debt relief for people who have it, plus making sure we deal it going forward. And the final thing I will say, just yesterday, Senator Warren, Schumer, Booker, and others, did call upon the president to use what we think is his executive authority.
Right.
So thank you for mentioning that as we close here.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing Shannon on board. We look forward to continue working with the whole team.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. And we will beat this thing together. And thank you for all your work you're doing. Look forward to seeing you in person when we.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Okay, at this time, we will return to our business agenda. I realize that many folks probably have some voting sessions in their committees coming up around 11. So I'm pretty optimistic that we should be able to be done well before that. But a lot of this depends on all of you, my good colleagues. So at the end of the day, I think we should begin by making sure we've approved the minutes from our last hearing. Just as a refresher, our first hearing was just a briefing, so there wasn't any official business conducted. So you received the minutes from the last hearing in your calendar invite with the agenda for the meeting, but I think Crystal just sent it again, just so you have it at your fingertips. So just giving folks about 30 seconds or so. If someone is able to provide a motion to approve those minutes or have any or needs to ask any questions, please do so at this time. And for all those that are watching us on live stream, we also have the minutes from our first two hearings posted on our website, which is baltimorecitydelegation.com. So feel free to also look on. Do we have a motion to adopt the minutes?
So move.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Thank you. The minutes are approved. I know the agenda has our bills in numerical order, but just for kind of continuity of theme, we're going to actually move the House Bill 256, which is an alcohol bill, I believe. We're going to have that moved down to our third hearing, and we'll hear the House Bill 436, number 2. So we'll conclude with 2 of the alcohol bills and begin with Delegate Lewis, House Bill 226.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did a special prayer this morning that my WebEx will not crash.
You sound amazing, Delegate Lewis. I want you to know that. You sound strong.
Thank you. So House Bill 226, this is the Complete Streets Funding Bill. It's a Baltimore City only bill. This bill was introduced in 2020. this delegation passed it favorably. This bill further passed out of committee and out of the House. As I recall, with good support, if not unanimous, stalled in the Senate. This bill has no opposition. This bill has no fiscal note. This is enabling legislation that will permit the city of Baltimore to use a portion of revenues from traffic camera monitoring and direct that funding towards complete streets, infrastructure, investments, and improvements. Complete Streets, as you guys all know by now, because I've pretty much been ranting and raving about it for 3 years at least. Complete Streets are a design approach to make our streets and rights of way safe for human beings who are walking and to prioritize human safety over car convenience. It's really important. Racial equity, health equity, design concept. We have a Complete Streets ordinance in Baltimore City. We're the first in the state. We have a statewide Complete Streets policy as well. So I would further mention that this bill, in addition to having no opposition, this bill is supported by Baltimore City. So with that, I ask your favorable support.
Thank you, Delegate Lewis. And I wanted to also lift up that representing Baltimore City DOT, Liam Davis is here in case there are any specific questions that anyone would like to pose. He is available, if needed. I know that we probably only have one member that wasn't a part of this, supporting this bill last session. So are there any questions from the body? All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to take a vote on this bill that we've passed out of this body before?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Jeremy, roll call?
Delegate Ambrose.
Yes.
Delegate Anderson.
Yes.
Delegate Attar. Delegate Attar.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
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 Delegate Chanel Branch.
Yes.
Delegate Talmadge Branch.
Yep.
Delegate Bridges.
Yes.
Delegate Clippinger. Delegate Clippinger.
I believe he had to step away.
Delegate Conway.
Yes.
Delegate Haynes. Delegate Lewis.
Yes.
Delegate Learman. Delegate Learman. Delegate McIntosh.
Aye.
Yes. Yes.
Delegate Rosenberg.
Yes.
Delegate Wells.
Yes.
Chair Smith.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries.
At this time, our first vice chair, Keith Haynes, will need to take over because the next bill is mine.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We're going to follow the same procedure as we did last week. All these days are running together, believe me. Ms. York, will you call essentially the next bill?
Chairman, I could barely hear you. What did you say?
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit better. Okay.
Can you officially call the next bill?
Sure. I can. All right, so we are hearing HB 436, Enoch Pratt Free Library, operators and funding. That's the next. We have on the line to testify in support. We have Heidi Daniel from the Pratt Library.
I think we have, we're gonna go sponsor the bill, Chair Smith.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
And just by way of information for everyone, I just don't have the agenda in front of me. That's the reason why I'm asking questions from all of that way. So, right ahead, Chair Smith.
Not a problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Good morning. For the record, Delegate Stephanie Smith, 45th District, here to present House Bill 436. This bill is concerning one of our most beloved institutions in the city of Baltimore, the Enoch Pratt Free Library System. Currently, we are receiving support for operating expenses, particularly for branches to increase and expand hours above what has been normal, particularly to meet the needs during this time of COVID. I also want to lift up that this is an extension of that funding of $3 million beyond fiscal year 2023. So we're going to hear a lot of express reasons why the Enoch Pratt Library needs this continued and expanded support. But I want to note that this bill also expresses the intent of the General Assembly that these increased operating hours be utilized and supported in the locations of the library system that really are meeting the needs of those who have a lot of stress economically and socially. And that's where the Enoch Pratt Library comes in to fill that gap. So without taking too much of their thunder, I want to make sure that I reserve time for the supportive testimony of the leadership of the Enoch Pratt Free Library System. And I urge your favorable report of expanding and extending this allocation within the state budget. Thank you. Mr. Chair, you're on mute.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the members of the delegation? Okay, seeing none. And I'm assuming that I'm seeing correctly. We will go to that have signed up to testify in favor of the legislation. And I think we have a representative from the library, excuse me. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much. Good morning. And I want to thank the chair. I want to thank Delegate Smith for support of this bill. And I want to thank you all for inviting me this morning. I'm Heidi Daniel, in case we haven't met. I think I've met many of you. I'm the CEO of the Enoch Pratt Free Library. HB 436 is, as Chairwoman Smith said, a continuation of the funding that was passed by a wide margin and championed by Speaker Bush 5 years ago. It gave us money to expand our hours, and we took that money and we were able to expand our hours by more than 30%. Prior to this funding, most of our branches only had 5-day-a-week service. It was relatively uneven throughout the city. And we took this funding and we expanded to 6 days a week all across the city. And then we put extra evening hours in our key geographic anchors of Pennsylvania Avenue, North Avenue, our Southeast Anchor Library, and our Central Library, which does now have 7-day-a-week service. We were very excited to do this. Overwhelmingly, the feedback from the community has been positive, and the reports that we have submitted each year have shared comments from the general community about what this has meant to them. These extra hours allow us to provide more evening hours for programs after school. It allows for our social workers in the library to be there more frequently, our lawyers in the library to be there on weekends so that we are open. It allows for job assistance, more usage of our meeting room, not just by Pratt for our programs, but also for the community as a whole. We've seen increases in our usage since this funding has passed and been utilized. In fact, in FY19, we had a 9-year high in circulation of materials, which turned a downward trend around for us and had us start trending upward. That would have continued in FY20. We were seeing about a 12% increase a day in circulation of materials. Our program statistics have been overwhelmingly up. Our visits and usage of our buildings has been up. And then, of course, in FY20, we had COVID hit, which did impact our statistics since we lost more than 30% of our fiscal year. However, COVID may have shut our doors for a period of time. But the Pratt didn't stop working, and the need for us didn't stop from our city. During COVID, we've offered sidewalk service at all of our locations now. We moved all of our programs to online, and we immediately purchased multiple types of curriculum support for city schools. So we reached out to our partners and said, what do you need from us to support virtual learning online? We also recognized, as all of you do, that internet access in our city is a major problem, and a digital divide is very real for us, with more than 40% of households lacking reliable internet access. So as we often do, the Pratt moved in to fill some voids. Since COVID, we've started drive-in Wi-Fi at 8 of our locations. So we expanded our signals to a wide area around our buildings. We put hotspots on our mobile units and sent them around the city to offer community Wi-Fi. We also started lending hotspots to the community. We have more than 400 in circulation now. If you check our social media, you'll see a great story that just happened this week from a teacher who had her student check out one of our teen tablets and connect for school through that because her internet was shut off. We also had, the story isn't great because of the internet shutting off, but we were able to help and the student was able to get her work done. We have Chromebooks that are in circulation. We have targeted the area of Pennsylvania North and Pennsylvania Avenue area where our branch is, out into Sandtown, Winchester, and connected with households that don't have internet access, and loaned for an extended period of time Chromebooks and hotspots, and connected them to a digital navigator who works with them one-on-one specifically to help them with their technology and goals. And they also formed a great support group and have been helping each other as well. In addition, we built a point to multi-point network around the area of our Southeast Anchor Library in partnership with Digital Harbor Foundation and Project Waves. And we just launched that, and we're able to provide in-home internet access for up to 50 households until broadband internet access is more widely available in the city, as it should be. We also launched our Career Online High School, which gets a high school diploma for 18 and up for free. We provide them with a scholarship so they can finish their diploma for free. And they can also focus on a career certificate. Our first graduate just finished. She's a mom who focused on healthcare and is now getting her nursing degree. Additionally, during all of this, we continued our statewide role. This bill does have statewide support, and a letter of support has been submitted from our fellow librarians throughout the state. We continued our state role, and even though many of us were closed, we partnered on programs. The Pratt has continued to provide interlibrary loan services in our distribution network throughout the state. We've continued to provide infrastructure and IT support because we do that on a statewide basis as well. We maintain the statewide network. And we also are taking the role on training, including trauma-informed responsiveness and race and equity training throughout the state. So this expanded hours and summary allows us to employ approximately 80 people. It keeps our hours sort of on par with our neighboring counties. We've never been able to match them for their hours, and this helps us do that. And it continues our accessibility for people who need us, most importantly, students and adults who can't get to us during the day. So thank you so much for hearing me today, and I respectfully request that you support House Bill 436.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Daniel. Are there any questions for our witness testifying in support? And I'm going to go out on a limb here because it looks like I see a possible question from Delegate Rosenberg. Am I correct?
Just a brief comment, Mr. Chair, if I may. Director Daniel made reference to the outreach efforts at Pennsylvania North Branch. I would just add that Speaker Bush introduced this bill several years ago because of the outreach efforts by her predecessor, Carla Hayden, at the Pennsylvania and North Avenue branch. In the disturbances that took place after the murder of Mr. Gray, she kept the library open at Pennsylvania North, And that's what prompted Speaker Bush to put this bill in. And it got a great response throughout our district, and I'm sure everybody else's at the time. So, but it was sunsetted. This bill would remove the sunset. So glad to see that the Pratt's efforts in Pennsylvania North and throughout the city continue. Thank you. Move favorably.
Thank you very much, Mr. Delegate Rosenberg. I think I saw a hand from Delegate Wells. Is that correct?
That was a glitch on my end. Thank you for the acknowledgement.
Okay. And just so I'm covering everyone, I just want to make sure that are there any other questions from the delegation? And if so, just say so, other than raising your hand, because it's a little bit difficult to see on a multi-screen here. Hearing none, Ms. York, do we have any other witnesses testifying in support?
Thank you, Vice Chair. We have Mr. Gordon Pratt from the Pratt Library.
Okay, if you would go ahead and begin when you're ready. Thank
you. Library for Heidi Daniel, and I'm really here just to thank you all and to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any additional witnesses in support of this legislation? House Bill 436. If not, are there any witnesses who have testified in opposition? I don't hear or see any. And Ms. York, do we have someone testifying in opposition?
No, we don't, Vice Chair.
Okay. Do we have any written testimony in support or in opposition that has been submitted just for the record?
There is written testimony that was submitted on behalf of the Pratt in support of the legislation, Vice Chair.
Okay. Hearing that and seeing that there are no further witnesses, I know that this is a bill hearing. Madam Chair, do you have a pleasure at this time?
I'm so sorry, Mr. Chair. I didn't hear the last word you said.
That completes the bill hearing for HB 436. Do you have a pleasure on the bill at this time? Or do you want to?
I think it's fine to move forward with the vote if there's a motion.
So moved.
Entertain a motion to move the bill. I hear a motion in support. Is it a properly second bill? I mean, a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? I'm going to turn it over to our counsel, Jeremy Baker. Would you take the vote on the bill? All those opposed? First of all, say all those opposed. Don't see any. So, Jeremy, would you go ahead and take the count?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes.
Delegate Anderson.
Aye.
Delegate Attar.
Yes.
Delegate Boyce.
Yes.
Delegate Chanel Branch.
Yes.
Delegate Talmadge Branch.
Yes.
Delegate Bridges.
Yes.
Delegate Klippinger.
Yes.
Delegate Stephenwolf. Delegate Conaway.
Yes.
Delegate Haynes.
Yes.
Delegate Lewis. Delegate Learman.
Yes.
Delegate McIntosh.
Yes.
Delegate Rosenberg.
Yes.
Delegate Wells.
Yes.
Chair Smith.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you, colleagues, for the support. We're going to continue with our last two bills. This next bill hearing will be for House Bill 256. Delegates Rosenberg and Haynes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the Alcohol Subcommittee, I'm going to present House Bill 256. We discussed House Bill 256 in the subcommittee. There were amendments to the bill that the Baltimore City delegation should have. The amendments make a clarifying change that the effectively the bar at issue that is being dealt with in the bill was misidentified. It was identified on one side of Frederick Road when it should have been on the other side. Furthermore, when it moved to the other side of Frederick Road, it moved out of the 41st district and into the 44th district. And so we made a change to allow Delegate Haynes to be added on to the legislation. Any questions about the substance of the bill, I'd defer to Delegate Rosenberg and Haynes. Having said that, the Alcohol Subcommittee voted favorably on the bill. I would move the amendments on the bill.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Jeremy, roll call.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I think you need a motion on the bill.
Oh my gosh, I need coffee. I haven't had any.
I'd like to
My
make a motion on the
goodness.
bill as amended.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. At this point, Jeremy, please take the roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Amprey.
Yes.
Delegate Anderson.
Yes.
Delegate Attar.
Yes.
Delegate Boyce.
Yes.
Delegate Chanel Branch.
Yeah.
Delegate Talmadge Branch.
Aye.
Delegate Bridges.
Yes.
Delegate Klippinger.
Yes.
Delegate Conaway.
Yes.
Delegate Haynes.
Yes.
Delegate Lewis. Delegate Learman.
Yes.
Delegate McIntosh.
Yes.
Delegate Rosenberg.
Aye.
Delegate Wells.
Yes.
Chair Smith.
Yes.
Okay, the bill passes as amended.
Thank you for keeping me in line there, Chairman Klippinger. Whew, I need some caffeine for Friday. Okay, we made it, y'all. We almost made it. Okay, we have an additional.
Let's do this again.
We have an additional alcohol bill, and that's House Bill 506, Delegate Branch.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Again, the Alcoholic Beverages Subcommittee addressed House Bill 506. It addresses a change. It's basically a change in, it's not really even a change in the law. It clarifies the law so that references to the 46th legislative district should be made in connection to the map that was passed in 2010 and not the map that was passed in, or a map that was became law in 2011 and not the map that became law in 2002. There is an amendment to the bill. There was a reference to the 47th legislative district, which is now beyond the scope of what this committee can do. We used to have the 47th district. We don't anymore. The amendment simply removes the references to the 47th district from the bill. The subcommittee moved the bill favorably. I would make a motion to adopt the subcommittee's amendments.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
I would move the bill as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, roll call.
Delegate Ambrose.
Yes.
Delegate Anderson.
Yes.
Delegate Attar.
Yes.
Delegate Boyce.
Yes.
Delegate Chanel Branch.
Yes.
Delegate Talmadge Branch.
Yes.
Delegate Bridges.
Yes.
Delegate Clippinger.
Yes.
Delegate Conaway.
Yes.
Delegate Haynes. Delegate Lewis. Delegate Learman. McIntosh. Delegate McIntosh. Delegate Rosenberg.
Yes.
Delegate Rosenberg, yes.
Delegate Wells.
Yes.
Chair Smith.
Yes.
The bill passes favorable with amendments.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
No, thank you. Thank you. We're going to be moving to a voting session. I accidentally pressed mute. This is a bill that we heard last week. I think there were just a couple of questions from folks, and I think we wanted to make sure they got answered. So, Delegate Lewis, could you just quickly just summarize House Bill 284 one last time before we take a vote?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. House Bill 284 is a bus lane enforcement bill. This body passed this bill favorably last year. This bill has no opposition and no fiscal note. This is enabling legislation that allows the Baltimore City and MTA to work together to ensure that the bus lanes that we have created operate efficiently. I believe there were some questions, and if I'm not mistaken, the Baltimore City DOT and Mayor's Office are present to help respond to any of those. Oh, I will mention that, yeah, the bill is supported by the city. Hopefully that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate Lewis. Were there any outstanding questions or clarifying comments that needed to be made?
Madam Chairman, is this bill in the same posture it was in, totally last year? The exact same posture?
Thank you, Delegate Branch. There are a few slight changes from last year. Last year, the Maryland Department of Transportation and the Department of Transportation offered some amendments which have been incorporated into this bill that just make it clear how the bill functions. But this bill is also supported by the state. So the changes that were made were asked for by the state.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Branch, and so nice to see you as well, my district mate. Are there any other questions?
Chair.
I will mention, Madam Chair, we received some questions via email from Delegate Conaway in the last couple of days, and those questions were shared with every member of the delegation, and I believe we shared the responses. And again, City DOT should be present to respond if needed, if anyone does have questions.
Thank you so very much, Delegate Lewis. I believe Delegate Conaway, I think, asked your hand up. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Chair. Yes, I had some questions to the response, and I appreciate receiving the response in a timely fashion. Was the fee last year, was it the $100, and is it being moved to $250, and why is that? If anyone can answer that question.
Madam, can you hear me? Thank you,
I
Delegate.
can hear you now.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Conaway. The fee that is included, that's proposed in the bill, was requested by the work group that helped produce this bill. If there's an issue with the fee, I would ask that the city and the mayor's office respond, but this is the posture that the bill is in.
So the fee was $100 last year, or was the
I don't recall that, sir. I don't recall that, sir. I'd have to pull up the bill. To my recollection, the fee has not changed. But if you need me to look at last year's version, I'm happy to do that.
Yes, I would need that in reference to I believe answer number one of the questions that I asked, where they're talking about a two-camera concept. Was that part of the original design concept that was proposed?
This is Liam from DOT.
Yes.
So that's one of the options that can be done. And
yeah, that's an option that can be done, but is that part of what was proposed, and is that a part of the, I guess you would call the financial package to see how much this system is going to cost?
Well, it's just we would work with our ATVS division, which is operated out of City DOT, to determine which setup works best for what intersection. So the two-camera system might work on one part of one corridor, and then there might be other corridors where it's one camera. But we're going to make sure that whatever installation is installed is the most efficient and most fair to, people who are utilizing the roads. We're really not interested in, being overly aggressive with this. It's really just reminding folks these dedicated bus lanes serve a purpose, and that purpose is to improve the reliability and efficiency and on-time performance of MTA Maryland.
Yes, I believe in the bill that the two camera system is being described because a person would come through the first camera and receive a ticket, and there'd be no way to prove whether or not they turned at the next intersection or not. So how can you determine which intersections would need the two cameras for a person to fight their violation or not? How would you determine that?
These are professionals and they're subject matter experts in their field.
So it wouldn't be uniform across the city? That's what you're saying?
Well, it's not always uniform. So when you look at our speed camera program, for example, we have different types of speed cameras that are deployed. It's dependent upon the available right-of-way, the type of intersection it is. There's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all, approach. There's certain corridors that are unique. So should the authorization and the bill pass, our team, our ATVS division, will go out and make a determination. And we'll also have internal discussions at DOT to really make sure that it's as fair as possible. As I said, we're not really interested in being overly aggressive. Any revenue that would be generated from this program would first go into operating the program, and anything else would have to adhere to the existing state regulations on how that money could be spent. A great example, if I may, is the truck route cameras, which the city has the ability to have 6 cameras. That's a loss leader. The city actually loses money on that program. It's a quality of life program. So for the bus lane enforcement, it's really not clear, how much revenue would be generated. But the clear point is that that's not the point of this program. The point is to keep the bus lanes that are there clear and free of non-transit traffic, because we have people that depend
in
on
reference to this being clear, I know on North Avenue near Coppin, the bus lanes are definitely not clear to me, and where you're supposed to turn is very confusing. But in your bill, you're saying that these cameras are going to run 24/7. Do the red light cameras run 24/7 and speed cameras run 24/7?
I believe the red light cameras do run 24/7. The speed cameras operate, I think, between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. if I recall
think it
correctly.
might be helpful to make the distinction between a normal everyday bus route and a dedicated bus lane. I wonder if maybe that's a point of confusion. Dedicated bus lanes at this time exist only generally in the central business district downtown. At this time, there are only 5 or 6 miles of dedicated bus lanes. They can be recognized by the red paint on the ground. And I'm not sure that there are dedicated bus lanes anywhere near Coppin. Can you clarify that, Mr. Davis?
So there's a active North Avenue Rising project, and there are dedicated bus lanes that are going in on North Avenue, but that project is not done yet. So I can totally see why it might be confusing to folks. So
I would also add that one of the other recommendations that came out of the year-long work group that helped produce this bill, one of the key recommendations was a public education and information program that will be led by City DOT and MTA.
Yes.
To make it very clear with signage and information where bus lanes are, how dedicated lanes are, how they work. There will be a phase-in to the fines. You get warnings before you get tickets, just like you would with any other change in traffic enforcement. I would also just jump in to answer your question, Delegate Conway, regarding the fee. The citation fee, it is exactly the same in this bill as it was last year. There's no change in the fee. And again, this is enabling legislation that allows Baltimore City to operate its own customized citation program.
Well, thank you so very much for entertaining my questions. I'll be voting against this bill until we get more information, and I hope the body will see it pass it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your questions, Delegate Conaway. I believe Delegate McIntosh had some feedback.
No, I don't. Madam Chair, you're going to have to show me how to take my hand down once I look.
Oh, because sometimes people flag for me because I don't see everyone's picture, so they're looking out for you. So I apologize.
That's okay. We'll have a tutorial later, okay?
Hey, we'll work it out. But thank you for that. So, is there any further discussion? All right, Jeremy. With this on our vote list, it's the only one. We still need a motion, correct, to take?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right. Is there a motion?
I move favorable.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, roll call.
Delegate Amprey.
Yes.
Sorry, Delegate Amprey.
Yes.
Delegate Anderson.
Yes.
Delegate Attar.
Yes.
Delegate Boyce.
Yes.
Delegate Chanel Branch.
Yes.
Delegate Talmadge Branch. Delegate Talmadge Branch.
Yes, yes, yes.
Gotcha. Delegate Bridges.
Yes.
Delegate Klippinger.
For my seatmate, Delegate Lewis, yes.
Delegate Conaway.
No.
Delegate Haynes. Yes. Delegate Lewis.
Yes.
Delegate Learman.
Delegate Learman had to walk away. She did note her affirmative vote in the chat feature. And she said she had to step away.
Okay. Delegate McIntosh.
Yes.
Delegate Rosenberg.
Yes.
Delegate Wells.
Yes.
Chair Smith.
Yes.
The bill passes.
Madam Chair, may I be recognized with a request?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I thank you to my colleagues. I would like to invite all members of the city delegation to take a bus ride with me on the dedicated bus lanes. when you're available and the weather's nice, so that you can see and feel how important these lanes are to the hardworking Baltimoreans that we serve. Thank you so much.
I'm there. You might want to offer snacks to sweeten the deal, but I'll still show up. Okay, moving on to our subcommittee reports. Delegate Klippinger with the Alcohol Subcommittee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Alcohol Subcommittee will be meeting again on Tuesday, again at 5 o'clock. We will be voting on a couple bills. I don't believe we have further bills to hear, but we'll be looking at any bills that have been introduced in the last week or so to see if we have to have any further hearings. If we have to have any further hearings on bills, we'll be voting them as well on Tuesday as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And if Delegate Learman's back, Education Subcommittee. If not, we'll just skip to Public Safety with Delegate Wells.
Yes, I'll be reaching out to the committee members to schedule a meeting. We do have a couple of bills for consideration.
Thank you. The only new business we have is the upcoming Alcohol Subcommittee voting session that Chairman Klippinger just mentioned, which will be happening next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Are there any other announcements for the good of the order?
Hey, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
I just wanted to just bring to light that I had spoken with the president of the city council last night. I was actually calling him because I'd had a number of people that were trying to get vaccine, elderly people. And I wanted to know from him, what was the process? Was there something better than people actually just going online? And he said it was a mess. And so, in fact, a number of people that I know had called said they were turned away. They had gotten an appointment, had actually gone there to get vaccinated, and were actually turned away, and after waiting for a period and having to go back home. So in light of that, I think that maybe we should have, or you should have someone come speak to us or talk to us from and the other thing was that was discussed was the fact that we get as many vaccines as smaller counties like Cecil County. I mean, big as Baltimore is. So I was amazed by that, and all the other counties, it's an even distribution from my understanding. But we have a greater need in Baltimore, and we should find out how they're giving them out, where they're giving them out, and what is a better system. So if you wouldn't mind trying to have someone either from the Baltimore City and/or governor's office kind of explain to us what a better method will be and should and could be. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Whip.
And lastly, I'm trying to get my parents, who are both 85, vaccinated, and they want to be. But I'm having a difficulty getting them, getting that for them.
I'm in the same boat. My mother's not as old as her parents are, nonetheless qualifies, for this moment and has heart problems. And you're right, it's door closed online, one after the other. So I will take that to heart, because we did want to get more information. Senator Van Hollen and the whole congressional team did reach out to the governor's office to ask for some of those answers you just mentioned, because whatever is happening now is not working. And quite frankly, we've routinely keep pitching things to the locals when there's no coordination from the state. And some people up for failure. And so I definitely would take that under advisement, and can I work with you to get that set up?
Most definitely.
Because I know you got the juice. You gonna help me?
No, we all have the juice.
All right now. All right.
All of us.
See, egalitarian distribution of juice around the delegation. Love it. Okay. Thank you for that. Is there any other comment or feedback or announcements for the good of the order? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I do hope everyone has a good rest of their day. I'm sure you have a lot of busy committee work ahead. Thank you to all of you.